Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I've got a first look at the Battlefield 5 Rotterdam map and NVIDIA ray tracing. EA flew me out to Gamescom in Germany, took care of my hotel and travel expenses so that I could capture some of this gameplay in Germany and give you guys my first impressions. This will be the first of several videos coming out about the new content. First, I want to talk about RTX. Now, if you guys saw that big NVIDIA presentation during, or rather right before Gamescom, there was a lot of flashy words and cool language being thrown around about real-time ray tracing and subsurface scattering and volumetric lighting and all these big words that probably a lot of people didn't fully understand. And I gotta say that this is actually one of those times where all that big marketing fluff and all those silly words actually do mean something, and this is a pretty exciting new bit of technology. It's in its infancy right now, and what you're looking at right here is actually Battlefield 5 using the new RTX technology. Some of the shaders are a little bit over the top. Apparently this build came in right before we were playing it, so they didn't have a lot of time to sort of fine-tune or finesse it. But I gotta say, first glance, it looks really damn cool. Now, for multiplayer, I don't know how big of a deal RTX is going to be right at the start. It might be another 5 or 10 years before people are playing competitively also with RTX enabled. Some of the competitive benefits you could get from it are the ability to actually see your opponents in the reflections of surfaces. So reflections of glass or groundwater or something like that, you could actually see somebody sneaking up behind you. However, there did appear to be a pretty significant performance hit. Now, I wasn't actually able to play on a system using all the same hardware and turn RTX on and then off to see the frame rate difference. But since I was playing on a system that I believe had a 280 in it and really high-end hardware at 1080p, and I was getting around 60 to 70 FPS on average, which is not bad, it's respectable, but I've seen what I can play Battlefield 5 at on my home computer without RTX enabled, and it's significantly higher frame rate than that. So for the most part, anyone wanting to play more competitive probably will not have RTX enabled. Sure, you might not see somebody in a reflection that you could have otherwise, but the massive frame rate benefit you'll get from not having it on for normal multiplayer gameplay is going to far outweigh the cool reflections. It does, however, look absolutely stunning. Without question, the new era of just video game visual technology. In Battlefield 5, the Frostbite engine is just kicking ass with RTX. It looks stunning. There's a few little areas here and there that might look a little too shiny or the shader tech isn't finessed yet, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, that being said, I think DICE may have shot themselves in the foot a little bit by creating such a beautiful game engine pre-RTX. They've done such a good job of faking lighting, reflections, volumetric lighting, global illumination, all that kind of stuff is already so well rendered and so well faked in the Frostbite engine that using RTX technology, which in a way isn't really faking it, it's giving you a realistic look at real ray tracing and light bouncing tech, that the benefits, the improvements you might see in Battlefield 5 aren't necessarily negligible, but they're not going to be as significant as you might see in other games with engines that just are less impressive than the Frostbite engine. And so that's something you have to take into account. Obviously, the frame rate hit is going to be pretty significant. I think the people who are going to see the biggest benefit from RTX technology are indie developers or small scale developers, where in 5 or 10 years time, every game console and every computer has a system with RTX options enabled. Then the indie devs are going to be able to turn on amazing looking volumetric lighting and reflection technology that's just going to take their game to the next level, where DICE has spent so much time trying to fake it and make the faking look really good. Developers in that period of time in the near future will be able to spend a far less effort making a much better looking game. But we're still a few years off from that. So to kind of wrap up RTX, it is amazing. It's a great new technology. It's right at the start, so the most benefit we're going to see are going to be single player games where you don't care about your frame rate performance as much, and that's just going to make those games look absolutely stunning. For competitive multiplayer players, you're probably not going to want to turn it on. that doesn't mean you wouldn't want to get one of the new NVIDIA cards. They're still probably going to give you a huge frame rate boost, but enabling RTX might not be as attractive for everyone. I don't know. It'd be awesome to see them turn on RTX in an older game like Counter-Strike and seeing how they could improve the visual performance and maybe still play the game at well beyond 144 or 200 FPS, which would be awesome. Now, I'm going to cut over to some non-RTX gameplay, and you will notice some subtle differences in especially with the puddle reflections and weapon textures being less shiny and less reflective in general. But let's talk about the map design, Rotterdam. I like this map a lot. It's very much like Amiens in many ways, but it has some added verticality to it. Also, the map enables some cool building features where you can block off entire alleyways and lanes far more effectively than you could on Arctic Fjord. So construction and building seems to have a much bigger effect on this map than the previous map, which is interesting. I wasn't sure if construction was going to be effective at all based on my first playthrough of Battlefield 5, but now that I'm seeing it, it is pretty cool, and I'm kind of curious to see how big of an effect it's going to have on the smaller, more choke pointy maps. Now, I didn't play the map enough to figure out if the ultimate meta is going to allow for a lot of spawn camping or problematic situations, but on my first playthrough, my first impressions, which is what this video is, I liked it a lot. It does remind me of Amiens a lot. In fact, I might even like it better than Amiens from Battlefield 1. Close quarter, infantry focused gameplay. Always love that part of Battlefield. This map does it really well. Allows for sniping, machine gunning, close quarter combat. There's, of course, a ton of new weapons, and in fact, I'm going to do a second video just exclusively on guns. It might already be out, depending on how I'm doing my launch schedule today. But yeah, if you want to know all about the guns, check the description for the link to that video, and you can learn more about those. But there was a lot of new guns. Some of the standouts are like the FMG 42, which is what I'm using here. Just an awesome German paratrooper assault rifle / machine gun. It's for the support class, actually. And I was just wrecking people with it. It shoots so fast. The recoil is pretty controllable, or controllable enough to just dominate people in close to medium range combat. So that was a fun gun. There's a lot of new weapons, and there's going to need to be a lot of weapon balance. After just playing a little bit of the new beta, there was clearly some weapons that just stood out above and beyond the other stuff. There's a 2-shot sniper rifle that makes the bolt action rifles just kind of obsolete. It's so weird that there's just some guns that stand so much higher above the other ones right now. So there's definitely going to have to be a lot of weapon balance to make sure that everybody isn't using all the same guns when the game first comes out. But as DICE does traditionally, they usually take a long time to balance, and they balance over the course of a game's entire lifetime, and then by the end of it, things are pseudo-balanced. We'll have to see how that works out. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test out the new weapon progression system. I was able to test out the new weapon cosmetic system, which it looks cool. I feel like there's a lot of mixing and matching going on where you can easily make a gun that looks really dumb, where I would love a button that just says apply all the camo of the same type to each part of the gun, which I didn't see in the UI. But like basically you can put different camos on each different part of the gun, make it kind of look like a clown gun. I think most people will probably just want to apply the same camo to the whole weapon instead of mix and match. The cosmetic changes and cosmetic upgrades or updates to the gun have no effect on its performance at all. That's coming in the weird progression system that they're doing with the guns, where you can choose different paths for the weapons that have different effects on its performance, which again, I didn't get to test out yet. So I'm not really sure how the weapon performance and weapon modding and customization is really going to be. At the moment, I can just tell you about the cosmetic stuff, which for the most part did look cool. And they used displacement mapping to create different kinds of textures on the weapons with old cracked wood and burnt stocks and stuff like that, weapons that are rusted out, things that look really old or really new or have cool paint jobs on them. There's a lot of nice variety in that department. Now, you might be seeing a lot of reflex sights in my gameplay here. I was equipping those by choice. You can of course run iron sights on weapons, but I wanted to try out a bunch of them. DICE has added in a few reflector sights, which were real technology during World War II. But this time around, to try and balance them out, this sight housing the sight picture is actually darker, so it looks like staring through a pair of sunglasses or something when you're ADSing. I think they might have gone a little overboard because it's so dark that it actually makes it really hard to see your target, especially if you're looking into a dark environment, almost impossible. They can certainly tone it back, but it is an interesting concept for trying to balance out the reflex sights versus iron sights. There's a few control and UI updates that I wasn't in love with. Weapons, I kept forgetting to equip the weapon I wanted because there's a new weapon equip button that you have to hit in the UI that's I feel like just not really intuitive, and it's probably going to bug a lot of people. There was a new way of distributing health and ammo where if you hold down like 3 on keyboard, it'll give you the ammo or the medical pack to yourself. That way you can't accidentally throw it to a teammate if you're trying to heal yourself in combat before your teammate. And then you have to be looking directly at your teammate who actually needs health or ammo and then hit the button and it'll throw it to him. You can't just throw them around the environment anymore. This kind of took me by surprise at first because I'm used to throwing down ammo packs and stuff wherever I want them. It might be an improvement. It might be something that actually takes away from some of the strategy of putting like a health pack down at a corner where I know I'm going to use it in a firefight. We'll just have to wait and see how that works. They might be trying to balance out the medical crates versus the medical pouches in that regard, where you can put a crate down anywhere, but you can only throw a pouch to somebody who needs it immediately. So that'll be interesting to see if that's a permanent balance change. The weapon balance changes in terms of class balance, I'm not fully on board with. They gave all the SMGs to the medic class, trying to force the medic class to be basically a CQB class, where you can't really be supporting your team from the back lines a little bit with the DMR. It seems to be more geared around being on the front lines with assault players and stuff, but it just gave me far less options. Now the assault class has the Gewehr 43 and some other DMR style rifles like the M1A1 and stuff. So I don't know. The assault class feels kind of weird now, hybrid of assault rifles and DMRs, and the medic class just gets SMGs. It didn't feel natural. I mean, DICE can do whatever they want, and I'm sure I'd get used to it eventually, but I preferred having the DMRs with the medic, and I don't know if DICE is just playing around with it or if this really is what they're going to try and lock in for the overall class balance. I wouldn't even mind it if they made the DMRs a universal class weapon, so you could use it for assault or medic or support or whatever. And that would be kind of cool, similar to what they did in Battlefield 4. They seem to have wanted to get away from that system, but I think that could be a nice way to allow different classes to play medium range whenever they want, because some of the maps are going to be much more wide open, and if the medics only have SMGs on some of those bigger desert combat maps, that's going to suck. So I hope they're not restricted to CQB only. There's a few cool destruction features in the map, the ability to take down facades on the side of buildings. However, the destruction damage does not seem to be particularly powerful right now. It would be cool to see some of that destruction damage coming back in full force, Battlefield 3 style. I would certainly love to see a return of that to an extent. You can also destroy some bridges towards the center of the map, and they're actually repairable too, although I think the repair time is very long right now, so I don't see too many people going out there to repair the bridges. Overall, I really like this map a lot. I think it's probably going to be a fan favorite, definitely a huge one for infantry combat, and they managed to sneak a tank in on either side, which we'll see how long those last once people get the anti-tank gameplay down. But I think DICE, from a marketing standpoint, probably should have led with some of their bigger maps. So far, they've portrayed Battlefield 5 as kind of a smaller, more intimate game, which is fine, except that World War II was a huge effing war, the biggest war of all time, just massive, massive all-out tank battles, air battles, land battles, and we're seeing small, intimate maps so far. So from a marketing perspective, I think people want to be impressed by the scope and scale in some of these huge maps. So it might be a bit of a mistake to lead with Rotterdam as the next map after Arctic Fjord, which was also kind of a smaller, more intimate map. Despite having airplanes and stuff, it just didn't feel like a very big map overall. So I think a lot of like the Battlefield 5 appeal is going to hinge on some of those big desert maps. We'll just have to wait and see what happens after the beta, what the fan and community reaction is. I am still really excited after playing this beta a lot. I like a lot of the new guns that have been added. I like the map a lot, and I'm pumped to play with some friends and try out some team tactics. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out the weapons video that I'm going to be doing for this as well. Check the links in the description, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.